Okay, my next task was going to be to have a tube coming down from here somewhere into this part of the shroud, so it will come out and go back behind the rear radiator somewhere here. And I was going to measure that so it was in line with the graphics card, which should be in the top slot. I wanted to check that before drilling any holes, so I offered up the motherboard to the motherboard tray and I'll show you what happened. Now the problem I've got is just here. You can see this heatsink on the motherboard is just stopping the screw holes lining up. We're talking about 1/2 mil, if not less. What I need to do to fix that, if you can see in there, is just countersink those screws into the fans at the back, because at the moment those screws are just protruding too far and pushing this heatsink down. My next job, instead of doing the tube bending, is going to be countersinking these screws just slightly. I've removed the fans from the top radiator. The fans are going like that with the wires at the back. So the ones I need to countersink are these 4 holes here. I'd already considered that this might be a problem and had worried about it, which is why I'd used at the rear these lower profile screws. Unfortunately they're the lowest profile ones I have, so unless I can find some lower profile ones online, which I don't think you can, that's probably the smallest screw head that you're likely to find compared to these more standard ones. I think I'm going to need to countersink these, but that's not too much of a problem. I'm going to use my same drill bit as before, just countersink that slightly. It won't need to be too much, just a couple of mil. I need to countersink that a few millimeters so that the screw will sink in. Now one problem this might cause is the screw to go further into the radiator, but that shouldn't be a problem if you look at how much depth there actually is between the screw hole and the radiator. And if you look at where it is at the moment, I don't know if the camera's focusing on that, you can see how deep the screw was into the radiator, because the thread's slightly silvered where the paint's come off, and there's plenty of leeway there for the screws to go in a couple of mil further. I need to be careful not to drill too far, but drilling will not be a problem as long as I don't go more than a mil or two to countersink the screw heads. You can see at the moment the screw sticks out by a small margin. I need that to go flush with the fan itself. So I'm going to take my, I'm just going to carefully drill downwards. I'm not going to go too fast on this, I'm just going to go slow. I've got a fairly low torque and I just want to drill through slowly, and that's probably about enough. I'll test it and see. Actually that needs about another mil, so I'm going to go down to the next level on the drill bit. Would help if the drill was going forwards. Okay, let's try that. We'll put the screw back in. Perfect. So you can see now the screw is completely flush with the fan. And if I put all 3 screws in at the 3 different stages that I had before, so that was the low profile screw, you can see that it's sticking out slightly. That's the standard screw, which I'd already avoided using because I thought there might be an issue with the height, and that is the low profile flush screw. You can see there's no screw sticking out. With any luck, that's enough of a height difference for me to get the motherboard in. If not, I might have to sand down the back of this fan, and that's going to be a real pain because it's all quite solid. Hopefully, just removing that screw will give me enough leeway to fit the motherboard in. Alternatively, I could try and narrow the radiator somehow, but I don't think that's going to be easy either. I'm going to now do the same thing for the other 4 holes that are at the rear of that radiator and then try and fit the motherboard again. Okay, just a quick word of warning to anyone who thinks about trying this. Countersinking the screws has worked fine, but if I was using larger screw heads and countersank those all the way, the screw would probably have gone into the radiator. It's only because I'm using the lower profile screw heads that this has worked. Any deeper screw head that I'd need to countersink here would have caused a problem with the screw going into the radiator fins. So you would have needed to either chop down the screw or use a lower profile screw head, as I have. And obviously every radiator is different. The other radiators I've got don't have that much gap between the casing and the fins. So just be aware if anyone ever tries copying what I've done here. Okay, with those screws countersunk, you can see that the heatsink's touching the fans. That's not ideal, but it will have to do. And you can see light through the screw holes. So that's just now going to work. And that was the difference between a mil and a half of getting those screws to line up. So that is lucky. I'm lucky I've got that to work just by countersinking those screws rather than having to sand down or file down the fans somehow. Well, there's another problem solved that I didn't anticipate. Hopefully, if anyone else has the same problem, you can either get a smaller radiator than I did there. That one's the smallest one I could actually get in white, or sand down your fans. So that's another problem solved.